Thả tôi ra! Các anh làm gì vậy?
Alo công an hả? Có vụ xô xát ở đây.
Mày im đi! Đừng chống cự!
Nhanh lên, họ đang đánh nhau.
Welcome back to our channel, dear viewers. In today's episode, we bring you a thrilling and emotional story about CEO Quan, a successful businessman who chooses a peaceful life on a countryside farm. On his way back home after a long day at work, he is suddenly ambushed by a group of criminals who block his path and threaten him for money after discovering that he comes from a wealthy family. On a quiet rural road with no one around, the situation quickly turns dangerous as he finds himself surrounded with no way to escape. At the same time, Tio Lak, his loving girlfriend, was heading to the market to sell fresh produce from their farm when she accidentally witnessed the entire scene. Instead of panicking, she bravely stayed calm and immediately called the police while secretly observing from a safe distance. Thanks to her quick thinking and deep love for Quan, the authorities arrived just in time and rescued him from the terrifying situation. After this life-changing moment, the bond between CEO Quan and Tieu Lac becomes even stronger. Their love is no longer just about sweet moments on the farm. It is about standing side by side in times of danger, protecting each other, and holding on to their shared dreams no matter what challenges arise. If you enjoy heartfelt, dramatic love stories filled with emotion and meaningful moments like this, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next exciting episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our upcoming stories. Late in the afternoon, CEO Quan drove his black SUV along the narrow countryside road that led back to the farm. The sky was painted in shades of orange and soft purple, and the last rays of sunlight stretched across the rice fields on both sides. After a long day in the city handling meetings, contracts, and endless phone calls, he finally allowed himself a slow breath. No matter how successful he was in the business world, it was this quiet road and the simple farm at the end of it that truly made him feel at home. The tires rolled steadily over the uneven path, small clouds of dust rising behind the car. He loosened his tie slightly, thinking about Tio Lak and wondering whether she had already finished sorting the vegetables they harvested that morning. A faint smile touched his lips as he imagined her gentle voice and bright eyes. Life at the farm was not luxurious, but it was peaceful, something money could never truly buy. Suddenly, his headlights caught the outline of two motorbikes parked across the road ahead. Quan frowned and instinctively slowed down. The road was usually empty at this hour. As he approached, three men stepped out from the shadows, their faces partially hidden under caps and masks. One of them raised a hand, signaling him to stop. A chill ran down his spine. Quan pressed the brake. The engine hummed quietly as the car came to a halt just a few meters away from the blocked path. For a brief second, he considered reversing, but another motorbike appeared behind him, cutting off his escape route. The trap was deliberate. One of the men walked toward the driver's side window and knocked hard on the glass. "Open the door," he demanded in a low, threatening voice. "We know who you are." Quan kept his expression calm, though his heart was beating faster than he wanted to admit. He lowered the window just enough to speak. "Is there a problem?" he asked evenly. The man laughed coldly. "Don't pretend. You're the rich CEO who owns half the companies in the city, and now you play farmer out here? Hand over the cash you're carrying. We don't want trouble if you cooperate." Another man circled the car, peering inside as if calculating how much they could gain from this encounter. The third one stood by the motorbike behind, ensuring there was no way out. Quan's mind raced. He understood immediately that this was not a random robbery. They had information about him, about his identity and his wealth. Someone must have talked. The thought made his jaw tighten slightly, but he forced himself to remain composed. Panic would only make the situation worse. "There's no need for violence," Quan said steadily. "If you want money, we can talk about it." The leader leaned closer, his eyes sharp and greedy. "No talking, just give us everything valuable. Wallet, watch, Phone, now. The countryside that had felt so peaceful minutes ago now seemed suffocatingly silent. Even the birds had stopped chirping. The fading sunlight cast long shadows over the fields, turning the scene into something tense and foreboding. Quan slowly reached for his wallet, careful not to make any sudden movements. He knew that one wrong gesture could escalate the situation. Though he had built his reputation on confidence and power, here on this lonely road, surrounded by men with desperate intentions, he was simply a man facing real danger. Yet deep inside, he held on to one thought. He had to get through this safely, not for his wealth, not for his status, but for Tieu Lac, who was waiting for him at the farm, unaware that the quiet evening had just turned into a life-threatening confrontation. At the same time, a few hundred meters away from where Quan's car was being surrounded, Tio Lak was walking along the small dirt path that led from the farm to the local market. A woven basket hung from her bicycle, filled with freshly harvested vegetables, crisp lettuce, bundles of morning glory, bright red tomatoes, and a few trays of eggs collected earlier that day. The scent of soil and green leaves clung gently to her clothes, a familiar and comforting reminder of the simple life she loved. She hummed softly to herself, thinking about how quickly the farm had grown over the past year. None of it would have been possible without Quan's quiet support. Though he was known in the city as a powerful CEO, here he was simply a man who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, who helped fix fences, plant seeds, and carry heavy sacks of feed without hesitation. The contrast between his two worlds sometimes amazed her. As she turned onto the main countryside road, she noticed something unusual in the distance. A car was stopped in the middle of the path. Two motorbikes were positioned in a strange way, one in front, one behind. At first, she thought it might be an accident, but as she pedaled closer, her heart began to beat faster. She recognized the car immediately. It was Quan's. Her grip tightened on the handlebars. From where she stood, partially hidden behind a cluster of tall sugarcane plants, she could see three men surrounding the vehicle. One was leaning toward the driver's side window. Another circled slowly, scanning the area. The third remained near the motorbike, behind the car, blocking any escape. The way they moved, their tense shoulders, aggressive gestures, told her this was not a friendly conversation. A wave of fear rushed through her body, making her knees weak. For a brief second, panic threatened to overwhelm her. She imagined the worst possibilities, her mind racing with terrifying images. But then she forced herself to breathe. Stay calm. If she ran toward them, she could make things worse. If they noticed her, they might take her hostage too. She had to think carefully. Lowering her bicycle quietly onto the grass, she crouched behind the sugarcane, trying to hear fragments of their conversation. The wind carried broken words, money, rich, now. Her heart sank. They knew who he was. This wasn't random. Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. For a moment, she struggled to unlock it because her fingers wouldn't stop shaking. She glanced back toward the road, terrified that one of the men might look her way. She quickly dialed the emergency number. When the operator answered, Tio Lak spoke in a hushed but urgent voice, carefully explaining the location of the farm road, describing the car, the motorbikes, and the number of men involved. She tried to keep her tone steady, though tears were forming in her eyes. "Please hurry," she whispered. "They're threatening him." The operator assured her that a patrol unit nearby would be dispatched immediately. Even so, the waiting felt unbearable. Every second stretched painfully long. She could see Quan through the windshield, his posture rigid but controlled. He was speaking, probably trying to negotiate, trying to protect himself without provoking them. She pressed her hands against her chest as if she could physically hold her heart in place. She had never felt so helpless, and yet, beneath the fear, a stronger emotion began to rise. Determination. She loved him, Not because he was wealthy, not because he was powerful, but because he chose to build a simple life with her, because he treated her with respect and warmth, because he believed in their shared dream of growing the farm together. No matter what happened, she would not let him face danger alone. In the distance, faint but unmistakable, she finally heard it, the distant wail of a siren. Her breath caught. Help was coming. Clutching her phone tightly, Tieu Lac stayed hidden, eyes locked on the scene ahead, silently praying that the sound of those sirens would arrive before anything irreversible could happen. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, slicing through the heavy silence that had settled over the countryside road. At first, the three men didn't notice. They were too focused on Quan, on the wallet in his hand, on the expensive watch on his wrist, on the image of easy money standing before them. But then, the flashing red and blue lights appeared at the far end of the road. One of the men turned abruptly. "Police!" he shouted. Panic spread through the group like wildfire. The leader cursed under his breath, grabbing at Quan's car door, as if trying to salvage something from the situation. "Move! Move!" another yelled, scrambling toward the motorbike. Within seconds, the quiet rural path exploded into chaos. The roar of engines, hurried footsteps, and the sharp command of approaching officers filled the air. 2 police vehicles blocked both ends of the road with precision, trapping the attackers before they could escape. Officers leapt out, shouting firm instructions and ordering the men to drop their weapons and get on the ground. Caught off guard and surrounded, the criminals had no room left to run. One attempted to start his motorbike, but an officer quickly pulled him off balance. Another tried to flee across the rice field, only to be tackled before he could get far. The leader froze, his earlier confidence replaced by fear as he slowly raised his hands. Inside the SUV, Quan released a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The tension that had coiled tightly in his chest began to loosen. He carefully stepped out of the car when an officer signaled that it was safe. His legs felt slightly unsteady, not from weakness, but from the sudden release of adrenaline. As the police secured the scene and placed the 3 men in handcuffs, Quan's eyes instinctively searched the roadside. Then he saw her. Tio Lak emerged from behind the tall sugarcane plants, her face pale but determined. The moment their eyes met, the fear she had been holding back finally surfaced. She ran toward him without hesitation. "Quan!" she called out, her voice trembling. He opened his arms just in time to catch her as she threw herself against his chest. He could feel her shaking, her fingers clutching tightly at his shirt, as if afraid he might disappear. Without thinking, he wrapped his arms around her protectively, pressing his cheek gently against her hair. "I'm okay," he whispered softly. "I'm fine." She pulled back slightly, tears glistening in her eyes. "I was so scared. I called the police. I didn't know what else to do." A wave of realization washed over him. It was her. She had saved him. Gratitude filled his heart, not just because she had acted quickly, but because she had stayed strong when it mattered most. In the business world, he was used to being the one in control, the one solving problems and protecting others. But in this moment, it was Tio Lak who had protected him. "You were brave," he said sincerely, gently brushing a tear from her cheek. "Thank you." The flashing lights reflected off the fields, casting shifting colors across the quiet landscape. The officers approached to take statements, assuring them that the suspects would be thoroughly investigated. As Quan answered their questions, he kept one hand firmly intertwined with Tio Lak's. When everything was finally settled and the police vehicles drove away with the criminals in custody, silence returned to the countryside. The sky had darkened into deep blue, and the first stars began to appear. Quan turned to Tio Lak, squeezing her hand gently. "No matter what happens," he said softly, "we face it together." She nodded, her expression steady now. On that once peaceful road, which had nearly become a place of tragedy, their bond felt stronger than ever. It was no longer about love and quiet moments, or shared dreams of expanding the farm. It was about standing side by side in danger, trusting each other completely, and choosing to protect what they had built together.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tiểu Lạc Review. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong câu chuyện hôm nay của chúng ta thì đã kể về nội dung đó chính là việc CEO Quân trong quá trình ăn Tết từ thành phố xong và trở về Lông Trại cùng với Tiểu Lạc. Trên đường về thì anh đã bị bọn côn đồ chặn đường và hãm hại. Bọn côn đồ này chính là những kẻ đã đến đòi nợ Tiểu Lạc và ép anh khai ra thông tin của Tiểu Lạc trước đây mà anh đã bỏ tiền ra để mua lại sự tự do cho Tiểu Lạc. Giờ đây chúng nhân lúc anh không đề phòng nên đã chặn đường và tìm cách hãm hại anh. Nhưng thật may mắn là Tiểu Lạc đã đánh kịp và đã báo cảnh sát để có thể giải cứu cho CEO Quân. Vậy là CEO Quân đã có thể trở về với Tiểu Lạc bình an. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện Tiểu Lạc và CEO sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện mình sẽ phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Và đừng quên bấm vào giỏ hàng được đính kèm ở trên video để mua tất cả các sản phẩm mà Tiểu Lạc bán nhé. Hãy ủng hộ Tiểu Lạc bằng mua các sản phẩm nha. Bye bye.